Hello and welcome to Lay's Little Seams. We will be making a little butterfly cat toy for this video. Now oftentimes my cats like to play with and they usually always like to jump up for it. But now we'll get into the tutorial part. So for this project you will need a few materials, of course. One of the main ones being, of course, fabric. I just have some scrap broadcloth from previous projects that I'll be using. And of course, scissors. I have fabric and paper scissors, but you can of course just use any old pair of scissors. It's up to you. Thread, pins and needles for sewing. I have a corner turner, which can help with turning the wings and the body inside out. It's not entirely necessary. You could also probably use a chopstick or a dull pencil or a pen. I also have tweezers in order to help stuff the body of the butterfly, and the stuffing ends up just being scrap bits of the fabric. So it can help, but other than that, you can also just stab it in with whatever you're using to as a corner turner. And then what I used in order to trace the pattern onto the fabric is a pen. I made it nice and visible in the clips and in the video, but you have, of course, you can always use just like a pencil or tailor's chalk or any of those other means. But that is pretty much all that you will need for this project. So here I'm quickly sketching the pattern for this project with the 2-inch long body and triangular wings, and just making sure that the wings will fit into the body, and then darkening the line so it's easier to cut out. And in the end you will cut out 2 fabric of the body and 4 fabric of each wing. And then here you will just need to trace a solid line out from around the paper and leaving space between the pieces so that you can make a dotted line for some seam allowance. And pin all those together just so that it's clear as to where they are and what they are, so you don't get it confused with the little scrap bits that you end up having. So there are the 2 top bits, the top wings and the bottom wings with the body piece. And so to start off with the sewing, you will want to anchor the string and pull it towards almost gone, but you want to have a tiny tail, and stitch about 2 times, I did twice here, on top of that to anchor it into place. And just tidying up the string a little bit, and you can make sure it's secure by just doing a little bitty knot right at the top. So when starting these pieces, I like doing a couple of back stitches. So you start the stitch, and then when you're about to do the next one, you put the needle a little bit behind the exit point of the last stitch. And then for the rest of the stitches, I just do running stitches, and around the curves, especially make sure it's anchored with good back stitches. So when the pieces are all done, you can even iron the body piece. You will want to turn out the wings. The wings is the most difficult part because it has only a small opening. So you'll want to put the needle through the pocket of the wing, around the couple of the stitches, and ease it back through the pocket of the wing. And very, very gently just pull it. You can try to organize the fabric a little bit better to help ease it through. Yeah, once you get the majority of it out, then you can ease the rest of the fabric over. And just squiggle it a little bit to get the fabric out to the edges, and you can use a corner turner in order to do so as well. And there's one of the wings. Now for the turning out the body, you mostly just need to do the same to the farthest end. Get your needle through the project. Don't snag any of the actual fabric though. And then pull it through. There's a lot more room with this one, so it's a lot easier than the wings. Oops, I'm out of frame again. And just with the head and tail of it. Now in this project, it doesn't really matter which end is the head and which end is the tail. You can use that, you can leave that to your own discretion. In the pattern, the tail is slightly more pointed. But in the end, at least for what I use this for, it's a cat toy, so the cats don't really care. And once the body is turned outside out, you can just push down the seam allowance into where it will be sewn. Just finger turn it. You can press it down. You can also iron it down, which will make it sit flatter and be a little easier to handle. I'm going to do the last two. And when those are done, you want, at least for what I did, I put in paper inserts into the wings to make them a little bit more rigid, and the cats have something more to bite on. So I just folded the paper and then traced out the wing pattern again. And then inside of it, just trace out and kind of copy out the same wing pattern and cut out the smaller shape. Because of the seam allowance and because we turned the wing, it's going to be a little bit smaller than the original pattern, so it helps for it to be a slightly smaller in shape. And you just want to roll it a little bit and get the narrowest and get the farthest corner and in. And just poke it through, and then you can smooth it out when it's in the wing. So it just gives it a little bit more rigidity. It's a little hard to see with how fast this is. And do the same for the lower wings. Just trace out that shape again on the inside. And just cut it out. For these ones, it's a little bit more difficult because that blunt end of the wing is a bit wider than it was with the top wing sections. Just gotta squiggle it in and flatten it out. It can take a little bit of convincing, but it just takes a little bit of patience. I would not recommend folding it because then it'll be a lot harder to undo once it's inside of the wing. And so now to attach the wings, you would just need to hold in place, and really you want to secure that top edge of the wing within the body. And like with starting sewing the wings, you just want to anchor it first. And do a few back stitches just to make sure it's secure. After which you can just do some running stitches and just pull it taut. And want to make sure that you have room and to place in the lower wing. Just have it at a little bit of an angle. Make sure that you have them overlapping on the same side. So when you do the other side, the lower wing will be sitting on above the top wing. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of weird. Just have them overlap on the same sides. And again, just do some back stitching and secure the edge of the wing. Make sure that you get all of the fabric, but stay within the edge seam of the body. And just can do a running stitch or running back stitches all the way further down. It can get a little finicky at times, but just be patient. At this point, my cat decided to visit me and see how I was progressing. She's a cutie, but she can be quite a bit nosy at times. It's just worrying when I'm using a needle. And there's one side done. Nice and secure. The wings can be independent of each other. So we're going to work on stuffing it a little bit. So for the stuffing, what I was just using was some of the scraps from cutting the wings and the pieces out. And it gives the body a little bit more of a firmness and rigidity instead of the traditional like plushy stuffing, which makes it really squishy. For my cats, they seem to like having it so that when they bite on it, it resists a little bit instead of just immediately squishing. So it has good results for them. And then to put in the next sides. And just fuss with the wing a little bit and then hold it in place. It can be a little finicky, especially when you're getting the needle right next to it. It'll be good to do an anchor stitch first and then put in the wing and sew it on. And do back stitches again over that edge to lock that wing in. Then you can do running back stitches and try to tuck in any loose strands. Alright, and so pretty much you follow the same directions, and as you go along you stuff it as you go, and then you attach the second wing and then anchor. You to hide the tail, just pull it through the body and then trim it off, and there's the finished little bit. And the wings just flippity flap on their own. And with that little white one, that was the first one I made for the cats. So with attaching the little anchor bit, I had to zoom in a bit more for this. I doubled the string just by putting the two ends together, and it's going to take a little bit to finick the eye of the needle over it, but it can be done. And then you pull the string, try to keep it tidy. Oh, there's a little bit of fraying there. So you pull the string through, and then about where you want the anchor to be on the other side, you put in and do a loop start, just so you don't have any real need to make knots or a ton of anchoring. And the reason why it's doubled up is because for what I use this for with my cats, I attach a clip onto the string that will be on the other side, and so having the string doubled up just really helps with it not breaking so quickly, and having anchored on the bottom will hopefully with some resistance give it a little bit more resistance, and it will also have some of the fabric from the wings being on the inside to kind of pull through and strengthen it. And so on this side, there we are, onto the other side, trying to make it about equal to where it is on that side. And this little loop is where you could put like a clip or like little whatever fastener thing. And you just put the needle into over here. It's a thicker tapestry needle of sorts to give it a little bit of space, so I don't pull it completely flush against the stuffed part, and then just anchor it with a couple of back stitches. And then a tidy little knot. And then feed the tail through the stuffed part. Oops. and remove the needle so I don't jab myself. And pull that through, pull it a little tight so that you can trim it off, and then the tail will be hidden away on the inside. And then there's that little loop that you can attach a fastener or whatever to, so you can put on some sort of line for a cat to play with. And that's it. Now, of course, you don't have to do the anchor. You can just have the little butterfly, but that's the basic of how to. Thank you for watching.